For the first one, really is just introduce yourself, and then I'll go after you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Jacob Tripp. I am a student at LBCC. I'm a pretty normal dude, just following Christ. Really, not much to it. I enjoy learning about psychology. I go to the gym. I don't know, pretty I don't
Yeah.
want to say average. Like I feel like I don't want to like diminish myself or put myself
Yeah.
down at all, but I'm not. I'm just on the grind, bro. I'm 19. I'm just doing what I'm doing.
Mm.
So met my
Alright.
boy right here in class in the debate class,
Yeah.
and that was super fun. That was a really cool experience. Low key wish I would have put more effort into that debate class because
Yeah, same.
I know what I'm capable of, and I know how much I applied myself, and it wasn't even.
Mm.
So, and we still had good debates. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, just to imagine what would be available. So, for me right now, I'd say that schooling is big for me, applying myself in school. So
Mm.
I would say.
You already know me. I'm Day. Like he said, met him at LBCC in debate class. Pretty good class. Pretty cool dude. Uh, I'm studying communications, but I do want to take psychology because I'm very interested in that. So, like he said, we're gonna see how that goes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I go to the gym too. It's usually gym, work, or home for me.
That's
I
it
be
right there.
chilling.
That's the combo right there.
Yeah, like
Gym,
gym,
work,
work, at
home.
home. So that's usually how that goes. Enough about me. So next one's gonna be like what's your background as far as like Christianity, like growing up in it? What's the story?
Okay, that's a good question. So for me, see, I'm 19 now, turning 20 this year.
Mm.
For the first good 17 years of my life, I really didn't have a relationship with God.
Mm.
Um, I grew up in a family that started off by going to church every Sunday, like up until maybe I was like 9 or 10, and
Mm.
then we kind of fell off. But past going to church every Sunday and maybe praying before we eat and
Yep.
maybe sending a prayer up when times get really hard.
Yep.
I didn't really have a connection with God. I didn't really know who God was. There's not a lot of Bible reading in my house when I was young. It was like we might have a couple verses on the wall, but the
Mm.
Bible is like reserved for the pastor who's
Yeah.
gonna read
Yeah.
it. Like that was like the unspoken assumption. It wasn't a rule, right? But it's
Yeah.
like that's just kind of what we knew. That's what we went by. That's the example I had.
Yep.
And so things really started to change for me my senior year of high school. Something that I'll never forget. Something that I will always thank the Lord for is the people that He put in my life. Like the closest friends that I have before I started following Christ. When I
Mm.
look back and I look at where they were and where I was, and this is why I stand by, like, I'm going to go on a slight tangent here
Yeah.
to get back to my point. When we talk about evangelism, I think that it's amazing to go out and tell people, give them the word. Hey, the Lord, Jesus Christ loves you. He died for you, this, that, whatever. I also personally believe, and I think a lot of people may think the same way, the most effective way to evangelize could be more long term. It's not
Mm.
necessarily going to someone on a corner, standing there with a sign. It could be just genuinely getting to know someone,
Yeah.
building rapport with them, caring enough about them to check on them, see how they're doing, build a friendship with them. And
Yep.
then when you are the light of the world, so much so, when you love on them so much so
Mm.
that they feel it and then they get curious and then they start asking questions. Hey, why are you the way that you are?
Yeah.
Hey, I noticed you're this awesome, fun, humorous guy. You go to church every Sunday.
Mm.
What's that about? Like,
Yeah.
and so for me, I had people in my life, I look back and the closest people, whether it be family, whether it be different examples, different mentors I had, whether it be just my friends,
Mm.
they would never necessarily push it on me, but they always made clear where they were at when we got to that point in the conversation.
Yep.
And it was never something I was against either. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
oh, F God, this, that, whatever. I just really had no idea. I just didn't know
Yeah.
past, praying when times get tough and saying grace before you eat, maybe,
Mm.
And so for me, things again began to shift when I realized, like, me and my friends, we call it brisket evangelizing
Mm.
because you're cooked low and slow.
Yeah.
And so, you got to marinate, and
Yeah,
I was hit with the
that's a new one.
brisket. So my bestest friends in the whole wide world were all Christians. And it just took me beginning to ask questions to see, whoa, how was I not seeing this before?
Yep.
And they would love on me, and they would, I was at a, I have my points in high school like everyone else does, where
Hmm.
I think for me, like I am blessed to have a parents that really instilled like just good values regardless of faith. So
Yeah.
I was never someone who's gonna be like going overboard or getting into
Yeah.
crazy stuff or like sneaking out. But I definitely had my time where I was like doing things I wasn't supposed to,
Yep.
hanging out with people I wasn't supposed to. Um, and so those people though in my life, those core individuals stuck around, continued to love on me. They didn't judge me. They also delivered to me the truth. Like, hey, this is when we would get in those deep conversations. Yeah, well, this is, the truth of the matter. We
Yep.
start talking about the Bible. I start getting like convicted, but convicted in a way where it's like, oh, wait, deep down, there's something in me that feels something.
Mm.
So that first began to happen my senior year, really right after I graduated. I remember the first big conversation we had was at our grad night, where we all, we went to like Disneyland or like some
Mm.
places go somewhere else. But we have had a lot. We have a lot of time to talk in those lines.
Yep.
And so I vividly remember we were standing in line for the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, and that ride we like loved it so much we read it like 2 or 3 times,
Huh.
and so that was like a good 3 hours of us just yapping in line, and like the conversation took a turn for God so quick and so abruptly without anyone realizing. And
Mm.
I have three, you know, people in my life that I genuinely love contributing to this conversation, and me just listening
Yeah.
and hearing them talk about it, and I'm like, wow, like my mind's blown. I got to look into this myself.
Mm.
So that's really where it started for me.
Yep.
That was like the thing. But then even again, when you first like discover, it's not, in my experience in my own life, I can only speak to my own life, but I think a lot of people can relate to this,
Mm.
is it's not like you start changing your life immediately. It's
Yeah.
not like we're like, okay, I'm gonna just be obedient. Some people it's different, right?
Yeah.
Some people have a really drastic life experience,
Yeah.
and
Like a major encounter or something.
they come near life and death, and they immediately shift. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
But for me, I had that conversation, but that conversation was really just a seed planted. It
Mm.
was actually about a month later. It was about a month later when I was like, it was post all graduation activities for the schools, and now we're having our grad parties and stuff like that.
Mm.
And I just remember being in the car with my friends on the ride home back from a specific grad party, and they're playing some gospel music.
Mm.
And for me, again, not really knowing God or knowing much about really anything, had an idea of what gospel music should sound like.
Yeah.
I thought it would always sound like a church choir or like
Mm.
this or like that or whatever. And so they were playing a few songs in the car, and I was like, wow, this really sounds great. And wait, these lyrics are kind of hitting me right now.
Mm.
They were kind of relatable. Like, whoa, what? And
Yeah.
so I kind of just sat with me. And so I would, hey, like, we hide the Shazam, right? Oh, I can't let them know. I
Yeah.
can't let them know I like this song.
Yeah. I
So I
already
just said,
know.
hey, bro, what did you say this song was called? Like, I just hit him with
Yeah.
a light.
Asking for a friend. Like,
Yeah, and we were riding in a van too. So
yeah.
I was in the third row, and I'm
Uh,
like looking at the aux screen. I'm
yeah.
like zooming in with my phone. I
Uh
take a picture,
huh.
and so I'm like, yeah, those songs are pretty cool. And so the next morning, I wake up, normal day as usual,
Mm.
get in the shower. I got a speaker in my bathroom,
Yeah.
and my first thing is, hey, I want to hear those songs again.
Mm.
So I put those songs again, and like right as they play, I'm in the shower, everything's cool, normal, and like
Yeah.
presence just hits me.
Mm.
I just start like bawling out, and I like these things begin to dawn on me. But all of these times in my life where God has always been there and present and watching and protecting, and
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know.
Yeah.
All of the people that He surrounded me with, hey, this was a nudge, this was a nudge, this was a
Mm.
nudge, this was a nudge, and I just didn't see it. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And so that point, so more closer to like summer, was when I was like, whoa, this is like a spiritual encounter. Like I don't know how else to explain it. My friends, we always try to come up with different names for stuff. So we call that the gray spam,
Yeah.
which is, when you get a text from the homie, your
Yeah.
texts are blue, their texts are gray.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of gray because they can't collect their thoughts. They
Mm-hmm.
just keep sending them, right? When
Yeah.
we're elated like that and
Yeah.
something happens that's crazy and we start spamming the text, that's the gray spam.
Yeah.
So like I had a gray spam and I was like, whoa, this stuff's real. Like I don't know how else to put that. Just
Yeah.
he encountered me in the shower and I was like, just literally felt this weight, like literally like an embrace. I got out the shower and I was like literally geeking out. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, like this is a real thing and this, that, whatever.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, I definitely fell and fell and fell. We all fall and fall and fall and sit back again. But that was like a catalyst to say, okay, I really want to like kind of get into this.
Yeah, she was up with it,
and
like
start
for
talking to my
real.
friends more.
Yeah.
So that was like the first time.
Uh-huh.
But even then, it's like, when we keep
Yeah,
building
it's
up
a
and
progression
leveling up in
thing.
our journey.
Yeah.
So I got a Bible like a few days later. But when was I really opening it?
Yeah.
I actually started reading it in like November. So there's a bunch of different level ups, but that's like my first like encounter with God that I can remember, where I was like, this is like the Spirit
Yeah.
moving.
All right.
So I know that was kind of a long explanation.
Nah, that's
but
cool.
that's like the first one I can think of. That was like right after high school.
That's good because like a lot of people think like you got to go to church, you got to be in the church building in order to like encounter God, bro. It's like he can encounter you wherever you at, like out here in a grocery store, wherever. Like, so that's a blessing in itself just to like hear that, like, that he moved in that way and that he like gave you little nudges, like you said, in between times where he was like, hey, I'm calling you, like, hey, these people, like, stick around them type.
Yeah,
so
literally.
As far as me, like my background, shit, I grew up and I ain't gonna say I grew up in church. Like I did, but I didn't. So I don't know what age it was, but I remember like it was a point in time where I would stay with my dad and like we didn't even go to church. Like Sundays was Super Bowl Sunday. Like that's what that was.
No,
like,
we gotta watch the game.
Yeah,
come on.
like bro, order pizza.
I don't know
like
where
that.
You going. We're watching the game today.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
I feel you.
It went from that to like eventually we started going to some church. And I think it was like because like one of his wives or whatever. And then we started going and we was going more and more. I became like, usher and all types of stuff like that.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So like that was interesting. And then so pretty much that time, whatever that was, all the way up to like I wanna say up to COVID really. Like it was like you going to church, but you ain't got a relationship with God like that. Like personally. And so COVID came, we already know how that was. Like it was 2020, everybody was like panicking, bro. Like I remember I was at a girl house, bro. Left her dorm or whatever because she was in college. And I came back home and then I was watching the NBA and like the news and everything, bro. NBA got shut down and everything got shut down right after that.
Oh.
And I was like, dude, it was March 2020, bro. I was like, this is crazy. So then fast forward, some stuff happened, and I ended up moving to Vegas for a whole year. Dang. So while I was out there, I ain't gonna lie, the first couple months I didn't have no job, bro. So literally I was just praying and fasting. Like that was it. Like wake up, pray and fast. That's it. I was doing like 3-day fast, 7-day fast. Like I was on it, which I got to get back to doing. But I was on it, right? And like I was encountering God and everything. I was reading the book of Acts. I was reading the whole Bible, but the book of Acts is what really did it for me, bro. Because I was reading it and like the stuff that was going on after they got the Holy Spirit, bro, I was like, ain't no way. Like, where is this at?
Yeah,
like I'm reading crazy stuff. Like you walk past in the shadow hill. I'm like, bro, what? Like, where this at? So I was scrolling on Instagram, or not Instagram. I was scrolling on YouTube one day, and then a ministry called Streamer C7 came up, and it's a dude. His name is Dustin. He was doing it like literally like how you see in a book of Acts, like blowing on people, like laying hands on people, people falling out, people getting healed and delivered, and all types of stuff. And I was like, I need that. And like, bro lives in Texas, so I was in Vegas at the time, and literally like a couple months later, I booked the flight. I'm like, I need that. So then I went to I went out there. It was Dallas, Texas, and it was like a park. It was a revival, and shoot, I just came expecting, bro. I was hungry, but I was like, even if God don't like touch me or whatever, like I'm just glad I'm being here to experience like this atmosphere, bro. So
Yeah.
so that's what happened. And then, bro, he laid hands on me. I was like out of it. I was like, she. It was crazy because like some people they usually like it depends on like the I would say the hunger level because that's how like God operates. So I was expecting, bro. So like I got hit, but sometimes like some people they might not feel it right away. They might feel it like you keep coming, you keep getting in the atmosphere, then you'll eventually feel it. But yeah, that's how it was for me. And I was like, I was on fire ever since, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Like I came back to Vegas. I used to work at Pizza Hut. So I was praying for everybody up in there. Like, bro, I am not
That's
lying.
fire,
Like,
dude.
yeah, I
I
am not
love that.
lying. I pray for so many, like, literally almost everybody in there except for like delivery drivers because they like in and out, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was cool, bro. I literally like prayed for a coworker and like was private signed and all types of stuff. And then he started praying for other coworkers.
Come
And
on.
then it was crazy. And then he was like, actually, man, he was hearing stuff. I'm like, dude, it's crazy. I ain't gonna lie, I don't think he had a personal relationship, but like faith alone, you can prophesy.
Yeah.
And he was just like doing it, bro. I was like, hey, it's
Dude.
crazy because like when I left, I feel like I was the Paul, and he older than me, but I feel like I was a Paul, and I was like, hey, bro, continue doing what I was doing when I leave, and shit, that's a story. And then I came back out here, so that's like the quick thing of my background, like I learned so much between like 2020 to now, then like those younger years all the way up to like 20.
Mm-hmm.
Because like in my other churches, they didn't talk about deliverance, they didn't talk about demons, like the more spiritual side. It was more like read the word, motivational, sound good, and then like we
Yeah.
move on. Like,
Get the
but
get the pick me up to get your
yeah,
week started on Monday. Hey, come here on Sunday.
yeah,
And that's not to put down any churches or
yeah,
any
of
preaching
course,
style. It's literally like that is something that surprises me too though, is that
yeah.
there's so much of the Bible that's not covered.
hmm Like the spiritual side of it, like we got the foundation. Everybody say like get saved, get salvation, follow Christ and stuff. If you don't, you're going to hell, whatever. But like they don't teach like the yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like
No,
if
I
you
just
don't, you
the
gonna
way
burn
you
in
said it, like,
hell.
you're going to hell or whatever. Like
Yeah, but it's like but it's like, bro, like what's the deeper stuff that like is actually in there?
yeah.
And without revelation, you wouldn't know, honestly. So that's I'm like super grateful, like for the ministry that I found, like which is very solid. So yeah, that's it for that one.
Yeah.
Shoot.
I think the last thing I'd say as far as like testimony and how I came to the Lord, something that also like cemented that it was the right decision for me
Mm-hmm.
is and as of recent time it's been really great, is that my mom and I, since I've like given my life to Christ and really been on fire for God
Mm-hmm.
in the past few years, my mom and I have grown a lot closer.
Mm-hmm.
And so her and her family, like they're all like praying people, and she kind of fell away from the faith for a while.
Yeah.
But when I was born, when she was having me, I was 2 months premature,
Mm-hmm.
projected. We've talked about this, but for the sake of storytelling, 2 months premature, projected to have Down syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
and was given the option to be aborted.
Yeah.
And so my mom was like, "No, I'm gonna have this baby. This is what God blessed me with." And so I was a C-section baby. When they pulled me out, put me on a table, I wasn't breathing for 4 minutes, so they
Mm-hmm.
had to do like resuscitation on me. And I'll never forget when I first gave my life to Christ, my mom and I's relationship was like on the rocks, bro. Like
Mm-hmm.
I could have cared less to have a relationship with her. Like, I was always closer to my dad. And I will never forget going to her apartment at the time and telling her and sitting on her couch, looking her in the eyes and say, "Hey, I just yesterday I decided to give my life to Christ." And like in
Dang.
that moment, she like broke down.
Wow.
because what I don't think I've told you before
Mm,
is as they were trying to get me to breathe, I wasn't breathing for 4 minutes. As they were trying to get me to breathe, my mom was like praying without ceasing in that moment.
mm,
And what she told me she said blew my mind.
mm,
She said, she told me, she said, I've been waiting for this day for years because when you were born, I was praying, God, please save my baby. Please save my baby. I promise he'll know you one day.
mm.
And it may have taken 17 years to get there, but
Yeah,
now I'm here. And so it's like,
that's
whoa.
fire.
It's like my life in it of itself is like a prayer answered for
Yeah.
someone else. And
Mm-hmm.
like that
Exactly.
blows my mind. That's how big God works. That's the scale that he works on that we just don't see.
Yeah.
Is like there's so much going on. There's so much that's in line that's put in place at this point and then this point, but it doesn't make sense until you get here or here. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it just blows my absolute mind, and I'm
Mm.
I'm so grateful to just be alive. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Nah, that's biblical, bro. Like you see a lot of stories, especially in the Old Testament, like where like women is crying out like they can't have kids or well, that's usually the situation. Like they barren or whatever, they cry out like, Lord, you just bless me with a kid, I'll give him back to you. Like
yeah,
and he honors that prayer, bro.
yes,
And then you see like the generations, like they eventually come to the Lord and stuff. So like that's a fire testimony, honestly.
yeah. And through me, like through just my like wanting to grow in the faith, like her and I've gotten closer. She's like completely rekindled her relationship with God. Like
Mm,
she's in a Bible. Like literally, I was leaving today and I see like two different Bibles out and a journal on the table
yeah.
with like a bunch of highlighters. Like she's praying. We got a freaking Bible out next to the
Mm.
door with the Psalm 91 out for like protection over the house. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's a completely different vibe from like when I grew up, like
Mm,
when I was growing up. So God is good, literally. You
yeah.
know, he's restores, you know, he heals. So with
Mm,
everything going on in life, it's like I don't know where I'd be if I wouldn't be here.
yeah.
But
I
yeah.
get you. Shoot. Shoot. The next one is really like some like a big topic that's going on right now, right? As far as like in the interview type of community
Okay.
is like, what is a man? But for us, the question we're gonna ask is, what is a man of God? Like, what does that look like? And obviously, we still growing, but from your perspective, what does a man of God look like?
That's a great question. I would say the way I define a man is a man of God.
Mm,
One. So I think that all
tough.
men should I think that all men should strive to be men of God.
Mm,
Um, and then when we look at men of God, I would say my definition of a man of God is a man who, one, seeks out the Lord, like first and foremost, like
mm,
with all of his heart, no matter how much he's screwed up, no matter how much he may feel shame, doubt, guilt, anger, hate, like just always seeking the Lord, right? You have David who did what he did,
yeah.
right? You know, slept with somebody or, you know, called bro's wife over, said,
Mm-hmm.
hey, let's do this thing, and then had the other dude killed.
Yeah.
Still considered, still considered though to be a man after God's own heart.
Yeah. Crazy
Every
setup.
single person that's used in the Bible that we look to as wow had something wrong about them,
Mm-hmm.
had something to point out, to scrutinize. So for me, a man of God and a woman of God as well would be someone who's at the end of the day, the Lord is like at the top.
Mm,
Even if they stumble, even if they strike their foot against a stone and like fall away, it's like, okay, at the end of the day, there's no going back to the life I once lived.
mm,
It all gets to be for Christ. Um, and I would say say for me in my own experience, me striving to be a young man of God, um, I know that at the end of the day, my thought process is what I'm doing right here and now glorifying Christ? Is it
mm,
bringing myself closer to Christ? Is it bringing other people closer to Christ? Um, and then from there, I would just base my thought processes, my beliefs on the word.
yeah.
So, am I being someone who's respectful, who's honorable, who's kind, who's loving? When
Mm.
I say I love someone, what does that mean? Because the Bible defines love as being, patient, kind, long
Yep.
suffering, it endures all, it doesn't fail, it's not boastful, it's not self-seeking. So even then, if to be a man of God is to be a loving man. But okay, when I tell someone I love them, am I really being kind?
Yeah.
Am I really willing to suffer for that person?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I self-seeking? Am I
Yeah.
seeking something from me, which I'm guilty of that as well.
Yep.
So I would say, in very short, a man of God is someone who fears only God,
Mm-hmm.
and not the opinions of other men. And when he operates in that mode, um, God will work through and in him and dictate everything that he does.
Makes sense. Dang.
Whether it be acting honorably, being respectful, being
Mm.
kind, being loving, authentic, genuine, whatever way of being that's empowering, that's uplifting.
Mm.
I believe all of those things are possible when we're just looking for God, you know.
Dang.
So
That's tough. She. Nah, honestly, yeah, man of God, I say just piggyback on what you just said. Like, first and foremost, like, you know, seeking Jesus, God's ahead of your like life. Like, that's just that's basic order, bro, as far as like the way he set it up, him, man, women, and children. Like, that's the basic order. And then obviously a man of God who like lives by the word. Like, obviously the Bible say like supposed to be doers, not just like hearers. Like, oh, the words sound good, like, but I ain't really trying to do all that. Nah, it's like you are doing all that. Like,
yeah,
that's his word, and he said like those who obey me or those who love me obey my commandments.
right,
So
of
if
course,
you really love the Lord, you really locked in with him, then you will obey his commandments. And the word
yes,
is the word, so it's not pick and choose gospel. It's like whatever he said is what he said. Like, that's it. And so I say that's what a man of God is too. Like, um, literally doing everything according to the word, and the way it's like supposed to be done, and really just seeking God first. Like, that's the main thing. Because I mean, if you ain't got no relationship with the Lord, bro, you shouldn't even be with no female, man.
I hear that.
And if
I
they
hear
ain't got
that.
one, they shouldn't be with you.
I hear that, man.
So yeah, really.
So what I'm hearing you say is a man of God is a doer.
Hmm.
In short, a doer, of course, of the word
Yeah.
and of his will. But
Hmm.
a man of God is a doer.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. I would say, in very short, to like literally sum up everything I just said, if
Mm.
I could give it in one line, I'd say a man of God is someone who models his life after Christ.
Mm.
I would say that.
That's the best model you can have. Also, for like some people who watching
Mhm.
who might not know, or struggling, I guess, what would you say are some practical ways to have a relationship with God?
That's a great question. Anyone who's struggling or who may not know, I would say practical ways to connect with God. One, I would say, and this is speaking from my own experience, is how are we viewing God? How do we
Mm.
view God? And so
Facts.
for me, in my own experience, I've struggled with connecting with God because I don't know who He is, or in the past I've not known. And so looking at things from a lens of, you have people in your life that you love, your brothers, your sisters, your mom, your dad, your best friends, right? I know that I love my father. I know that I
Mm.
can go and connect with him. I can call him. I can text him.
Mm.
I know that when I was a young little you coming home from school, I could say, "Dad, Dad, Dad, this is what happened."
Yeah.
And we were playing on the playground, and I was talking to my dude over there, and he kicked the ball to me, and you can just be in a way that is so childlike and so like enthusiastic and full of joy with your father, and he's
Mm.
listening. And so my submission to anyone who is seeking relationship with God, I'd say prayer is your best friend
Mm.
alongside the word. And when you go about doing those things, it is viewing God as, yes, it's true. He's the most high. He's almighty. He's
Mm.
all knowing. He is all of those things. And at the same time, he's your heavenly father. He's a perfect father in heaven who watches over you. There's a reason why we're called children of God.
Yep.
And so for me, when I realized that, when I realized I could go to God and, like, yes, the Bible outlines a way to pray.
Mm-hmm.
There are instructions. Jesus himself also says, though, don't just pray to hear yourself speak.
Yep.
Don't pray like hypocrites who stand on corners and try to sound more holy.
Yeah.
Because the fact of the matter is, God knows what you're thinking and what you're going to say before it even exits your lips.
Yep.
And the moment I realize that, there will be times where I'll be in prayer and I say, Lord, you already know what I'm going to say, so I'm just going to say it. This is how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
This is what I'm up to. It's important that we remember that, yes, we get to praise God and thank God for all that he is and all that he's done. At the very same time, you look at David, who's has hundreds of 100 psalms,
Mm.
and or Job. These are men who cry out to God, and it's not always in praise.
Yeah.
They're upset sometimes, they're angry, they're full of sorrow, but the fact of the matter is their heart and their eyes are set on God to be building that relationship.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's good or bad, they're going to him, they're speaking to him, they're crying out to him, their heart is yearning for him. So I would say, regardless of what you have to say to God, because when you really ask God, when you really, like, in my experience, when I've really asked God, when I've really searched, he answers.
Mm.
The Lord knows your heart. And so I'd say there's no perfect thing to say to God. Say what's on your heart. He will respond. I have faith that anyone who's watching this will be responded to when you really are searching for God.
Mm.
So even if you're praying, even if you're, like, speaking out and you feel like no one's listening, God is. As far as practical, though, right?
Mm.
I want to kind of hone in because that was kind of a tangent. I'd say, again, viewing God a certain way, knowing he's your father is, step one. Knowing that your life is worth dying for. There's a man who is also God. His name is Jesus Christ, and he doesn't even know you. He knows you, but he doesn't even know you. You don't know him yet, is how I'll put it.
Mm.
And he says your life is worth dying for. So putting in that perspective of, like, wait, I'm worthy. A lot of us go about life believing stories that we've either made up about ourselves or other people have made up about us.
Mm.
And oftentimes they're diminishing. An example would be, oh, I'm shy. This is my favorite example to use. It's one that
Yeah.
was taught to me. Oh, they're just shy.
Yeah.
Where did that start? Because when you came out of the womb, you weren't shy. You want something, you cry about it. When you're joyful, you're a baby. Goo goo
Yeah.
gaga. You'll make it known. Babies aren't shy. So where did that start? Oh, well, maybe one day little Timmy is walking with mom, and mom sees someone that she knows, and little Timmy doesn't. Little Timmy's 2 years old. He's experiencing the world for the first time. So there are a lot of things that are foreign to him.
Mm.
And so maybe just once he meets someone and they try to approach him thinking they have rapport with him because they have rapport with the mom. And he says, oh, let me just kind of tuck behind my mom here because I don't know you yet.
Mm.
And then mom says, oh, don't mind him, out of her own comfort, out of wanting to comfort herself
Mm.
and, assess the situation. Don't mind him. Don't take offense. He's just shy.
Yeah.
And so, like, from right then, a label is placed on someone.
Yeah.
A story is made up.
Yep. Label.
And then we begin to believe it.
Yeah.
And so I would submit to anyone watching this video that any story, any belief system that's not empowering, oh, I'm not a math person. Oh, I'll never be able to do that because I've just never been good at it. My submission to you is to consider that God doesn't view you that way because he didn't make you that way.
Yep.
So going into it with just knowing, as cliche as it may sound, God loves you.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. If I could put it in 3 steps, I would say God loves you. That's the first part. Know that. Believe that. Even if you don't, just believe it. Just do that. 2, I would say spend time with him. So just like you spend time and build relationship with anyone else in your life. Hey, bro, let's go hang out tonight.
Mm.
Hey, you talk on the phone, you FaceTime, you do this, you do that. Hey, I want to, how do you get to know someone? You ask questions about them.
Yeah.
You really, so I would say spend time, like a lot time in your day, in the same way that some people every weekend they value hanging out with their friends. Okay, every Saturday, let's go to the beach, right? Over summer or something. Or
Mm.
Friday night, let's go out. Like people have those values. They have that set in stone. Like that's their thing. So to build relationship with God, just like you would anyone else in your life, spend time with him.
Mm.
Make the time for him. Set it aside. Um, whether that be in prayer, whether that be in his word. When you have his word open, ask God, what do you want me to learn from this? What do you want me to pull from this? Because it's also important that as we read the Bible, to understand that it's not just any book. This is God's words to you.
Yeah.
The Bible can seem so daunting sometimes, at least to me, because I didn't for a long time I didn't realize, okay, this is written for me, but it's not written to me. So
Mm.
there's a lot of language that's used here that I may not understand. There's a lot of context that I might just be missing. But when we really dig deep and look for it, okay, who was this written to? What do they understand about the text? What time period was this? Right? If I describe to you this is an example, again, one of my mentors gave me that's like golden.
Mm.
Okay. If I tell you, hey, Day, we're going to get together this summer. There's going to be a huge day of celebration. We're going to have fireworks. We're going to get on the grill. We'll probably cook up hot dogs, burgers. We're going to wear our country's colors. You might
Mm.
hear a couple of loud booms outside, but it's okay because it's all celebration.
Yeah.
What am I talking about?
Mm. 4th of July, I'm
4th of
assuming.
July.
Yeah.
Because we live in this culture, you know exactly what I'm talking about without me saying it's 4th of July.
Yeah.
But if you were to give that description in a book to someone now 200, 400, 1,000, 2,000 years down the
Mm.
line,
Yeah.
they may not get it unless they do the research.
Yeah.
And so there are plenty of examples like that in the Bible where I'm looking at it. What does this even mean? Why would he use, for me, what I found was I'd read the Bible and read a verse. Okay, I get it. Read a verse. Okay, read a verse. I don't even know what that meant. Keep reading. And
Mm.
and then I caught myself, and there was one day where I caught myself and I said, "Hold on, let me back up. I don't even know what I just read."
Yeah.
And so then I start digging. I start looking up, a deep, you know, what does this verse mean? What does this word mean? What is this translated to? And again, this is all stuff that anyone, as you get more comfortable and you get more experienced, or just wherever you're at, you'll get to it. But
Mm.
just my submission would be, uh, know he loves you, spend time with him. In the time that you spend with him, be intentional.
Mm.
Look for him, because you're gonna find him.
Yeah.
Like, ask him questions. He'll answer. The word literally says, "Seek and you shall find. Ask you shall receive."
Mm.
Knock and the door will be open. But what first has to happen? As a man of God, you have to knock. We can't expect God to open doors for us without knocking on them first.
Mm.
We also can't expect, for, let's say metaphorically, every door we knock on to open, because what if that's a path that leads somewhere we really don't want to see? Only
Yeah.
God knows. The third thing I would say is just stay consistent as possible. Like, because I can literally look at times in my life, even if it's a week span of time,
Mm.
where I wasn't in my word, I wasn't praying, something was missing, and then I could notice a shift in myself where I was trying to do things on my own. I wasn't leaning on God, and then where were my results?
Yeah.
And again, we're not perfect. Like, I want to stress that we're not perfect. We're flawed individuals. Every day is not going to be operating at 100%.
Mm.
At the same time, God knows that.
Yeah.
God says, "My yoke is easy, my burden is light." When I read that again, what's a yoke? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What is he talking about? Egg yolk? So, but for anyone who's watching who doesn't know, a yoke is this piece of farming equipment that essentially puts two like bulls or like oxes heads together to carry weight. And so for a ox or a bull to be yoked to another, is they're both carrying weight. And so you wouldn't want a young bull and an old bull yoked together, right? They're unequally yoked. The Lord also says to be equally yoked with people in your life.
Mm.
But when Jesus says my yoke is easy, my burden is light, what he's saying is, hey, stay with me and I will carry all of the weight for you. I'll carry all of it.
Mm.
I got it already. You don't know it yet, but I got it, and you're trying to take it all on your own, and you're not listening. And so for me, it's like, again, to go back to the point, just stay consistent, even if it's a little bit every day, even if it's, Lord, I'm really having a hard day, but I'm just going to talk. I'm just going to speak out to you. And I just want to submit, my complaints, my worries, my fears to you.
Mm.
That a lot of people, again, think you're supposed to pray a certain way. There are plenty of great ways to pray. I also believe just you speaking out to God in and of itself is prayer.
Mm.
Like, if you want to talk about a relationship, we can sit here and have a conversation. Have a
Yeah.
conversation with God. Talk to him like he's your father, because he is. So, again, I went on a total tangent. I'm like a yapper, but my three things would be: know, like, make the choice to believe that God loves you, because he does. Choose that. God loves you. Spend time with him and be consistent with the time that you spend with him. That's what I
Shit.
would say is how to get closer to God.
Hey man, it took all the words from me. I was gonna say pretty much the same stuff, to be honest with you. Shoot.